What's going on, everybody? David Mitchell here, voice of Autism, episode 87. We've been having a little bit of difficulty today. I can't say it properly, but issue with the internet and the live stream not wanting to work properly. But yeah, that what's been going on, and it's the sixth time that I am doing this. I don't know why, but it don't want to work properly. Literally, like, I don't know why, but it's problematic. And that's something I think need to be worked on. Or I might need to find a new live streaming app. One or two. But yeah. But we're having a little difficulty with the internet and all that. So yeah. Let's start with this one right now.
Good job, David.
You're welcome. But yeah. We've been having a little difficulty problem with some. I don't know why it's been, but been doing that a lot.
Autistic adults experience high rates of negative life events.
But me and my lovely fiance, Valeria, we're doing great. I'm going to go to her YouTube channel. Just go to her. The link to her YouTube channel down below. I'm going to go watch some of her video. But yeah, me and her are doing great. I'm wearing one at church. She sent me back a few years ago called Hashtag Filipino. But yeah. It was crazy, but the internet and live streaming have been acting up today, and I don't know why, but yeah. Might cut the live stream short in an hour, so not sure, but it's been acting up, but yeah.
Autistic adults experience high rates of negative life events. Autistic adults are vulnerable to many types of negative life experience, including employment difficulties, financial hardship, domestic abuse, and mate crime, according to new research published today in the journal Autism Research. This research highlights the challenges that autistic adults face in our society. With the right support, many of these events are preventable. Sarah Griffiths. These negative life experiences could partially explain higher rates of anxiety and depression symptoms and lower life satisfaction in autistic adults compared to non-autistic adults. Mental health conditions, such as anxiety and depression, are extremely common in autistic adults. Negative life experiences increase the risk of anxiety and depression in the general population, yet few studies have investigated whether vulnerability to these types of experiences might be responsible for higher rates of depression and anxiety in autistic adults. One barrier to investigating vulnerability in autism is the lack of suitable measures. The research team, based at the University of Cambridge Autism Research Center, therefore developed a new measure called the Vulnerability Experiences Quotient VEC. The team worked with an advisory group of autistic adults to develop the measure to ensure that it included experiences that autistic people felt were relevant to them. The VEC asks participants whether they have experienced 60 negative life events across a wide variety of settings, and including both adulthood and childhood experiences. 426 autistic adults and 268 non-autistic adults completed the VEC via an online survey. The two groups had similar levels of educational attainment, and the majority of autistic adults did not have intellectual disability. The autistic participants reported higher rates of 52 of the experiences in the VEC. This included items relating to financial hardship. 45% of autistic adults said they had had a period of life without enough money to meet basic needs, compared to 25% of the non-autistic adults. Domestic abuse. 20% of autistic adults that had been in a relationship had been sexual abused by their partner, compared to 9% of the non-autistic adults. And mate crime. 70% said they had been bullied by someone they considered to be a friend, compared to 31% of the non-autistic adults. Participants also completed measures of anxiety and depression symptoms and a brief life satisfaction scale. Autistic adults reported higher levels of depression and anxiety symptoms and lower levels of life satisfaction. Those individuals with the highest number of negative life experiences on the VEC also experienced the highest number of current anxiety and depression symptoms and the lowest current life satisfaction. Although this study cannot prove that these negative experiences cause depression, anxiety, or lower life satisfaction, as these are just associations, these findings are consistent with the idea that vulnerability to negative life experiences is partially responsible for higher rates of anxiety and depression and lower life satisfaction in autistic adults. Lead author Sarah Griffiths said, "This research highlights the challenges that autistic adults face in our society. With the right support, many of these events are preventable. We need to ensure that all autistic adults have appropriate support to reduce their vulnerability and to improve their mental health outcomes." Carrie Allison, one of the Cambridge research team, said, "The results of this study are a wake-up call, indicating the serious extent of negative experiences that autistic adults suffer in most areas of their lives." This study focused on intellectually able autistic adults due to the online survey method. Future work will focus on adults with intellectual disability who may have a different set of vulnerabilities. Professor Simon Baron-Cohen, director of the Autism Research Center at Cambridge, said, "This research is vital to inform government policy makers worldwide about the appalling violations of autistic people's human rights. Our next step will be working hard to translate these findings into new policies, such as the need for every autistic person to have a lifelong support worker to whom they can turn to help them navigate the world." Clara, an autistic adult from London, commented on the study, "This research is so important to me. Despite being intelligent and good with people, I've had too many negative, challenging situations in my life with work, close relationships, access to health, social services, and education. It has affected, and continues to affect, my mental health." This study was funded by the charities Autism Research Trust and Autistica. The research also benefited from funding from the Queen Anne's Gate Foundation, Mishcon, DREA LLP with support from Gesher School, the Nair Clire East of England, and the IMI Ames 2 trials. Reference, Griffiths S.
The reason why something like that happens, ableism, racism, discrimination, we get it the worst. Like, literally. You see how bad the autism community get it? We get it worse. And it's not a problem. But yeah. Here's something else that I think about.
To the people, mostly ableists, who reject the concept of non-mixity for neurodivergence, let me set the record straight. Non-mixity isn't about everything. It is a moment of relief NDS can enjoy without having to bear with ignorant prerogated people who spew BS about their neurodivergence. Non-mixity isn't a time for debate. There is a time for debate, mixity, and another one for taking a break from it, non-mixity, as much as there are things that are debatable and worth debating, but also things that are not. Debate isn't everything. An autistic's right to relief isn't debatable, it is a right you just take offense of because it angers you to see autistics taking the lead for themselves, without your intervention. As far as I can recall, the only valid reason people hate ND non-mixity is because it conveys to their eyes a message they couldn't imagine the ND to once display to them. Power. Non-mixity is a manifestation of power. The power to take decisions to yourself. The power to say no. The power to affirm something. To set rules. To break social expectations, etc. Because this time, the ND appears powerful by that it makes people jealous, and against what allows them this expression of power, non-mixity.
They are scared of us. Because we're getting our voice out there. And if we keep it up, we'll make our voice heard and tell them enough and enough. But yeah. But it's my stepdad is a little drunk and he outside in a truck, so yeah, that's something I have to deal with. But yeah, I did find it messed up.
Why we misunderstand behaviors in autistic children and how we can get it right. June 25th, 2019. No comments yet blog. An Indiana school recently made headlines after one of its special education teachers presented an autistic 5th grader with an award for most annoying male at a school ceremony. While the incident was unfortunate in many ways, perhaps most disturbing was how it revealed that even people who work closely with such children can utterly misunderstand the behaviors that are common in people with autism. The story serves to accentuate how important it is to educate people about autism in order to spare any other children and their families from the sort of needless suffering this boy and his family were forced to endure. How could a teacher get it so wrong? The misunderstanding stems in part in the...
There are reasons why ableism, discrimination, all of it.
The misunderstanding stems in part in the wide disparities between the definitions of autism. As described in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders known as the DSM-5, autism is a disorder characterized by deficits in social interaction, repetitive behaviors, and sensory processing differences. But to others, including many autistic individuals, autism isn't a disorder, but rather a different way of being in the world, a natural human variation. Many schools and treatment programs favor the former definition, focusing their intervention efforts on trying to modify behaviors deemed non-preferred and replace them with those considered more socially appropriate. The problem with categorizing behaviors as appropriate or inappropriate is that we miss the bigger picture. Behaviors in human beings are adaptations to the body-mind connection. I described how we can begin to appreciate the true meaning of behaviors in my new book. We need to understand that for autistic people, behaviors are often workarounds, self-accommodations to one's brain-body wiring. Instead of trying to change these behaviors, we should respect them for what they are, the person's way of communicating or of being in the world. It's important to note that when behaviors involve self-harm, we need to direct our attention to the cause of the distress, often physical or emotional pain, underlying medical conditions, etc. Too often, professionals view a child's behavioral differences as items of an autism diagnosis checklist, instead of understanding that they are a child's way of adapting to how his or her body-brain highway processes information. All behaviors involve movement and sensation. So Anne Donnellan, an autism researcher, uses the term sensory and movement differences to describe variations in the behaviors of autistic people. Many children move their bodies in ways that might seem inappropriate for a given setting, and of course, teachers need to manage behavior in their classrooms. But what is often missing is an appreciation for the constellation of adjustments and adaptations labeled people make to ease the circumstances of their lives. It's a good idea to pause and rethink our initial reactions to behavioral differences we observe in neurodiverse children. Doing so helps us begin to teach children to respect the signals from their own bodies and to involve the child in devising creative solutions that honor their own individual differences. This approach to autism stands in contrast to approaches that involve cajoling, reinforcing, and non-reinforcing behaviors. As more and more educators come to understand and appreciate their autistic students and their behaviors, my hope is that they will come to understand and appreciate the real rewards of teaching these children and the awards they truly deserve. Delihook, Mona. Beyond behaviors, using brain science and compassion to understand and solve children's behavioral challenges. Hesse Publishing and Media, 2019. Donnellan, N.M., David A. Hill, and Martha R. Leary. Rethinking Autism, Implications of Sensory and Movement Differences for Understanding and Support. Frontiers in Integrative Neuroscience, No. 6 2013, 124, doi 10.3389/F9. 2012.00124. Join our newsletter at the bottom of the page for information on how we can effectively shift the lens in understanding how to support neurodivergent children and families.
Now, some of the reason why this stuff happened is because of ableism and racism and segregation. That reason why some of this stuff happens, and it needs to quit. But yeah. But it's something we deal with on a daily basis. And it's something that need to quit, like straight up quit. But yeah. Now, we are having a little technical difficulty with stuff wanting to work right. It's up and I'm trying to figure out why he's doing it in the first place. I checked out my music outside. But yeah. Got dogs, but yeah. We deal with a lot of discrimination and a lot of stuff on a daily basis. Like literally on a daily basis. And when the corporate autism speaks, like they're actually one of the culprits. And people don't want to call them out for it. And one of the reasons why, because they like suing, trying to set our voice up, why I don't think it's right. But yeah.
Autism, hidden pool of undiagnosed mothers with condition emerging. This article, experts report, growing phenomenon of...
Be right back. Yes? I'm live streaming right now, so if it's up and it's gonna have to wait. Sorry about that, guys.
Autism, hidden pool of undiagnosed mothers with condition emerging. This article is more than 2 years old. Experts report, growing phenomenon of women recognizing themselves as they research their children's disorders. Amelia Hill, at by Emilia Hill, Mom 26 December 20. A hidden pool of women who have grown up with undiagnosed autism is coming to light as mothers researching their children's spectrum disorders recognize themselves in their findings. Advertisement. There are far more undiagnosed mothers out there than we have ever thought, said Drive Judith Bull, lead consultant and former director of the Lorna Wing Center for Autism, who developed the first and only female-specific diagnostic tests and who trains doctors in how to recognize late adult female diagnosis. These women are coming to prominence now because there's more information on autism in girls and women on the internet, so they can research their children and in doing so, diagnose themselves, said Bull. Professor Simon Baron-Cohen, founder of the Autism Research Center at Cambridge University and the Class Clinic dedicated to diagnosing adults with autism, agreed. Undiagnosed mothers are definitely a growing phenomenon. Putting a number on it is impossible, but I'm sure it's a big number because women seeking diagnoses of autism were likely to be dismissed until just a few years ago, because autism in females was thought to be very rare. My condition enables me to help my children develop a joyful version of autism. Rachel Cotton. The National Autistic Society estimates that there are currently about 700,000 people living with autism in the UK, more than 1 in every 100 of the population. About 20% of autistic people are thought to have been diagnosed as adults, although no national figures for adult diagnosis are available. Anecdotal evidence, however, suggests numbers are rising. Baron-Cohen says that 4 years ago, 100 cases in Cambridgeshire were referred to his clinic. In the first 4 months of 2016 alone, it received 400 referrals. Autism among women and girls has only started to be widely acknowledged in the past 2 to 3 years. The men-to-women ratio is now recognized as being between 3:1 to 2:1, although some experts believe there are just as many females with autism as there are males. Advertisement. Autistic women are, however, still likely to remain undiagnosed. A survey, the National Autistic Society found that 42% of females have been misdiagnosed, compared with 30% of males, while twice as many women were undiagnosed compared with men, 10% compared with 5%. But experts are warning that these mothers risk having their children forcibly adopted in the fight to get them diagnosed and supported, as social workers misinterpret the parents' autistic traits as indicating potential harm to the child. Their own autism, often undiagnosed, means they put professionals' backs up and can be accused of causing or fabricating their children's condition, said Bull. Advertisement. Melody Magenta was accused of a rare form of child abuse, fabrication or induced illness (FAI) by social services during her fight to get her 3-year-old daughter diagnosed with autism. Rosie was made a child in need because for 3.5 years, I kept challenging the doctors who refused to diagnose her, said Magenta. Looking back, I probably did put people's backs up because I'm autistic. But I knew how hard life would be for Rosie if I didn't get her the right support. I understand that my autism makes me a difficult person to deal with. I don't know when to back off when I know I'm right. I can't look people in the eye, so I come over as being shifty. Autistic people get hyper-focused, but they mistook my obsession as a sign I was unstable. How Disney gave, but although those traits are hard for people to deal with, my autism was ultimately a good thing, she added. Perhaps a neurotypical person would have thought the doctor knew best and backed off. Or they would have stopped fighting because they feared losing their child. But I fought on, and because of that, Rosie has finally been diagnosed with autism. Advertisement. New research written by Baron Cohen, Alexa Pohl of the Autism Research Center and Monique Blakemore of Autism Women Matter has found that 1 in 5 mothers of an autistic child, regardless of whether the mother had a diagnosis herself, has been assessed by social services. 1 in 6 of those mothers reported that their children had been forcibly placed for adoption through a court order. These are very worrying statistics, said Baron Cohen. Whether these mothers have a formal diagnosis or not, if a lot of these mothers, who have autistic children, have undiagnosed autism themselves, they might struggle with communication with professionals and appear confrontational rather than diplomatic. The risk is that social services see this as a difficult mother, rather than recognizing her communication issues are a part of her own disability. Advertisement. Drive Catriona Stewart, founder of the Scottish Women's Autism Network, who has studied autism for over 10 years, described a hidden pool of women who have grown up with undiagnosed autism. She said, these women can finally recognize the condition in themselves because they can use the internet to research their children's condition, then seek a diagnosis for themselves from a world that's finally ready to acknowledge them. Stewart only realized she was autistic when investigating her daughter's autistic symptoms. When she was considering getting her daughter assessed for autism, she was advised by a friend, who is both a very experienced clinical psychologist within the child and adolescent mental health services system, and the mother of an Asperger's boy, that Stewart herself should get a private diagnosis. My children know it's natural to feel what they feel, says Rachel Cotton. Photograph, Linda Nillen/The Guardian. She said to not go through the NHS if I could avoid it, and that I needed to be warned, because I was the only other adult in my daughter's life who recognized she had issues. People would see me as being the problem, said Stewart. Advertisement.
I'm live streaming! But yeah, well, it's laundry day, so yeah, but it's something that I think needs to change, because the job won't quit unless we clean up enough. Like literally, to think about it. Segregation and the unequal treatment that we get is horrible. But yeah.
Autistic Skill Sets, a Spiky Profile of Peaks and Troughs for Min Reed, by 00 Longley 5, 2019. 1 comment on Autistic Skill Sets, a Spiky Profile of Peaks and Troughs for Min Reed. Autistic people are often differently capable, with areas of remarkable skill and troughs of profound weaknesses. An exploration of this phenomenon. Splinter skills and spiky profiles. One of the primary things I wish people knew about autism is that autistic people tend to have spiky skills profiles. We are good at some things, bad at other things, and the difference between the two tends to be much greater than it is for most other people. Because we are bad at some things, people often expect us to be bad at other things. For example, they see someone failing to conform with social expectations, and assume that person has impaired intelligence. But because we are good at some things, people are often impatient when we're not as skilled or need support in other areas. Academic achievements don't imply competence in self-care and maintenance, and high levels of skill in certain areas don't always translate to success in education or in the workplace.
That is true, because I dealt with that myself in all times at school, elementary, middle school, even high school. So yeah.
We are often taken to be lazy because we seem to master some things easily, but fail at things many find simple. Autistic kids suffer a lot in school because, when they struggle with certain tasks or subjects, teachers often assume that it's from a lack of effort. If you can get the right answer so much of the time, surely you can train yourself to show your workings. If you're so articulate, why aren't you making friends? In the workplace, we might be highly competent in certain areas, hopefully the ones central to getting the job done, but bad at networking, bad at office politics, and bad at completing tasks that nobody actually told us we should be doing. To pass interviews, we need to muster the social skills needed to play the part of eager potential employee. Even when we are hired for jobs we're good at, many autistic people find ourselves pushed out because we fail to pick up on social cues, don't always intuit unstated responsibilities, or we just can't play the right social games. Smooth and discontinuous spectra. If you think of skills as lying on a spectrum, some people have moderately high levels across the board. An autistic spectrum of skills is more like a series of bright peaks with dark troughs in between them. I accept that this is not quite the common description of the autistic spectrum, but I stand by it. Sometimes people talk about these islands of ability as splinter skills. Often autistic people are really very good at things we're good at. Mostly the skills are the result of putting a lot of work in because we're interested in it, not that we always have much control over where our interest takes us. So-called autistic savants have caused much excitement in pop culture, but the savant narrative often talks about splinter skills in almost mystical terms as if they were acquired effortlessly, when in many cases the opposite is true. Autistic artists have often spent hours and hours drawing when other kids were socializing or doing other typical activities. Autistic mathematicians and scientists will have focused intensely on the logic of the world from a very young age, spending their time working out how to work things out. Having said that, I do find that I and other autistic people I know seem to pick up some skills much faster than most people. When things build on our existing interests, perhaps the deep linking style of the monotropic mind lends itself to rapid progress within an area, often at the cost of poorer generalization between areas of skill. This is something like what people mean when they talk about autistic people being bad at big picture thinking, but we're perfectly good at seeing the big picture if we can make logical sense of it. Most things in life obey rules of some kind, even if inconsistently. Being determined to find overarching patterns allows us to make sense of many of the things around us, although people are frustratingly hard to predict, especially when their brains work differently from yours. On the other hand, thinking differently often allows people to make sense of things from perspectives that other people completely miss. If you don't start with the same assumptions as other people, you are likely to miss what seems obvious to most. However, you are also more likely to find your way to answers that pass the majority by. People stop thinking once they reckon something is solved, and bringing in diverse viewpoints makes it much more likely that mistakes will be caught. Diverse teams tend to make better decisions, whether they're mixed by background, gender, socio-economic class, or cognitive style. We all benefit from being around people who are not like us, as well as from people who are. The diversity of human thinking is one of our species' great assets, and communities do best when they make the most of everybody's strengths and support them with their difficulties. The first step in doing that is to recognize what those strengths and support needs are. The second step is learning how to work with diverse individuals. People can change and learn, but sometimes it takes a lot of time and effort, and sometimes that effort has the opposite effect. Shutdowns and burnout can lead to massive losses of ability and motivation, often across multiple areas and sometimes lasting for months or longer. Then again, on the occasional extra good day, we might accomplish a lot. One could say that the spiky skills profile applies over time, as well as across skills. Never assume that because something is easy for you, it must be easy for everybody else, but don't be too quick to decide anything is impossible, either.
That is true. That big thing, and that I found motivated right there to think about it. That's something you have to think about in a way, but yeah.
This has got to be the most useless and overused quote. Yes, autistics are human, so therefore, like every other human, we are unique. We are not the same as every other autistic person. In the exact same way, every human is not the same as every other human. I'm not sure how else to say it. It is also used by therapists, those who try to divide and oppress us. As if we all so different that one environment or one anything will not suit most, if not all of us. I'm so done with this quote and people using it to hide their own ignorance and inefficiency. I can suggest at least 30 things off the top of my head that will improve the lives of all autistic people, be they 2 or 20 or 78 years old. I can suggest a further 50 things that will change the lives of all autistic people, be they living at home with parents, have co-occurring diagnoses, or have yet to be born. Yes, we are human, so therefore we are unique, but we are not some strange bunch that are so individual that we have nothing in common. This quote served a purpose at some point, but it is now futile, harmful, and we need to change our rhetoric.
And it ableist and fear-mongering. Like, it is fear-mongerer, in a way. But, yeah. I did think about it. How long stuff like that been going on? It's been a long time.
Cherry Blossom October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Cherry Blossom. Collision symbol. The story behind my support for this advocacy. Way back in 2016, right after my trip to Vancouver with my mom, I discovered that Canada and my side trip with mom is very supportive about this awareness. I was in awe to take part of this awareness campaign, with me sharing this photo that was taken in December 2016 in tribute to the campaign. About this awareness, I was also into encounter to this client of mine whom I've sang to way back in 2015 has breast cancer, and was being operated, and was cancer-free after the success of her breast operation. Much to my emotional distress and happiness, I'm much into distress that having breast cancer is too heavy to carry inside a woman's human system. I am also happy for how brave this client is after a series of downfalls during her deal with breast cancer, and has survived it with much joy.
Okay, I can't show the real picture because I don't want to get censored or an 18 rating, but yeah. My fiance did a nude model picture of breast cancer awareness month back a few years ago.
Even me myself, I was extremely conscious about this because it's a woman's part of the body that can be breastfed once she has a child, and this also becomes a symbol of a womanhood that is nothing sexual, but becomes the most beloved part of a woman's body in which she can caress it with both of her soft hands because she loves the size of it and appreciates it despite small, medium, or large her breasts are. This is also a food of a child when she gives breastfeeding. Collision symbol. What about why not making negative views about women covering their breasts in a photo like what I did? I believe and I merely know that not all people can appreciate or understand why I did this. For me, this photo I've presented here becomes my own, and my only revenge to those who bullied me and used me as their victim to keep up with their demands. I never...
That damn... My fiance Val, she was bullied when she was younger. I was bullied too when I was younger. Like... She was nearly bullied to the point where she nearly starved herself to death. With they better lucky I was not her boyfriend at the time because they would have got themselves pummeled by me. And I would have made sure of it. Like, it's disgusting that they did that to my fiance. But yeah. And she also on autism spectrum.
I never intend to post this photo for attention, but I also wanted to make history as I wanted to be brave enough despite being autistic. I want to make history within the autism community to support this campaign. I know and I assume that this photo might be too controversial to some, but nonetheless, I will strongly support this awareness, and I'm not only supporting this awareness, but also promoting body image acceptance since I'm also a proud plus-size girl. Collision symbol. The problem and the solution. Honest.
And I'm not skinny for me, and that's one thing about my fiance. She is a plus size, but she's beautiful. Like, she is my love. And she is motivating. Like, she motivated me, and she is very motivating. But, yeah. And a lot of other stuff, too. Crazy, but she was one who really helped me in a way, big too, and it really had changed my mind. But yeah, a lot of stuff have changed, and it's crazy. Never even expected to be here this far, but yeah.
Honestly, it's just funny how people treated this as a sex object, or should I say how disappointed it is. We women are here to voice out our support for this campaign because we want also to encourage people, particularly women, who struggled with this heavy-minded condition to have faith in themselves as they'll survive and be proud that they can win this battle. I also admire women who did the same as I do for the inspirational purposes in this campaign. Fire to those who are too judgmental and close-minded. I may not please anyone here, but I'll give you this advice to those who don't know what breast cancer is about. Better have consciousness and make research on this. That will make you understand why I did this. If you don't like this post and if you have nothing nice to say, then be quiet and simply respect. Collision symbol. Last words of dedication. I dedicated this photo to all women younger to older who are into struggles of having breast cancer and who fought hard to survive that. No judgments, please. I'm here to support the awareness campaign because that's how it should be. Disclaimer. I know not all.
Yeah, right there.
You come get your sheet. Yeah, you got your sheet.
Middle of the live stream.
Okay. Hi!
But yeah. I'll put the clothes away after the live stream.
I know not all can understand or relate to this campaign. Negative squared cross mark. I know that others fantasize it, but hoping that there will be no slut shaming involved or sexual offense involved. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast Cancer Awareness. Proud Autistic Advocate. Confidenciski. Autism Advocacy Team Soup with Breast Cancer Awareness. Free Orman. Autistic Advocate.
That was from my lovely fiance, Belbaria. She makes me proud. Like she does. Like, it's very hard to find people who do stuff like what my fiance do, and it makes me proud. Like, it really does. I'm still trying to figure out why everything was not working earlier. But, yeah. But yeah, the crazy thing. Oh, I'm so mad at what they did to my fiance video. Like literally. And here, Gene. That week with July 23rd will mark 1 year of me and Val being engaged. Like, literally. That in a week to 2 weeks from now. And today is the 14th. So, yeah. It's crazy, but it's 2 weeks away.
I don't mind men who admired me for my beauty. I respect them, but mark my word, they can shame me once, twice, but thrice. I'm ashamed in their hands, but they can't take away my dignity and my worth because they have to set their standards and stay away from me, in which is clearly fair and square, for I have a man in my life and I loved him with all my heart and my soul. David Mitchell, I echo it back to you. You're the one that I love. I don't need any ring to prove our love, but the living proof to maintain ourselves love. Face throwing a kiss. Just wait in a few moments, I'm there. Smiling face with halo. I have a favor for you. Will you promise that you support me on my ambitions in life like what I secretly do to you? I was honestly got teary-eyed inside as your mom touted me as your fiance. Smiling face with heart-shaped eyes. Smiling face with heart-shaped eyes. Smiling face with heart-shaped eyes. I'm honestly in doubt on what's next, but I assured that individual lives won't affect badly, but motivated us to be faithful on each other.
Yeah, the day that I proposed her on video chat, long distance, and it's been almost a year since I did that, but yeah, but it was crazy, but I'm actually engaged, for people who don't know, but yeah. Now later on, after the live stream, I'm going to figure out why stuff was not working properly. Because it's something I'm still trying to figure out, but yeah. And I actually got to put the clothes away in a few minutes anyway. But yeah, it's something I'm trying to figure out. That's something I wanted to work right. But it's crazy. Like, Val is the one who motivated me to keep on doing YouTube and stuff. And she was the one who motivated me to a lot of stuff. She made my life better. So, yeah. And Val also on autism spectrum for people who don't know. And me and her, we found each other on an autism dating website called Spectrum Single. That's how me and her found each other. But yeah. And it was a crazy, but yeah. And for our people out there on the autism spectrum, you will eventually find someone and you will fall in love one day. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. Don't let other people bring you down. Because you will eventually, but yeah. And I really do mean it. Like, it's amazing, but yeah. Prove them wrong. Show them that you're better than they think you are. A lot of stuff. But yeah. I was going to do them more stuff on YouTube, but with how everything acted up today, that was kind of problematic. But yeah.
One of y'all straighten up them couch cushions.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Whenever you decide to send me some more pictures
Now
with clothes on to send him. That's what he's been waiting on.
Now I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream.
No, the outfits that you bought already that you wanted to wear.
Sorry about that. Now I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I hope I enjoyed what I've been talking about. I hope I motivated you and give you the will to keep on speaking the word and showing our people what we stand for. And I hope you bring a change. And I hope we get our voice out there. I really do. And I hope you guys had a great weekend. And I hope you guys are having a great summer. And I'm getting ready to sign out. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.